friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reaction being the yo 568. That in that neighborhood. My brothers and sisters, I did not know that this man had put out a new video until I was driving home from work today, y'all. You know what I'm saying? I open up my YouTube and I'm looking. I'm like, hold on. This says that this was published 4 freaking days ago. And then I was like, oh yeah, me and the Bean team, we got to check this one out today. And the man that I'm talking about is Nick Crowley. Back to Nick Crowley, y'all. Gonna check out his latest video. And the title of it is The Darkest Moments in TV History 5. Now, I can just remember some of the previous darkest moments in TV history that we seen from Nick, man, and they always sick, and I'm pretty sure this is gonna be the same way. And we're about to get into it. But before we get into it, Bean Team, y'all know what y'all got to do. Get whatever you might need. Get what you need, please. We back to Nick Crowley. Once again, y'all got what y'all need, y'all ready to go? Then let's go.
Now, which of these ways would you choose to reveal your secret crush on someone? A, would you write that person a letter?
It's March 6th, 1995, as taping begins on an all-new episode of The Jenny Jones Show. The program was essentially a tabloid talk show centered around everyday people caught up in unusual circumstances, which made for an entertaining yet often questionable program, with the showrunners doing everything in their power to make the content as shocking and sensational as possible. And this episode was set to be no different. The segment centered around 6 people, each of whom had a secret admirer, who would be revealed for the very first time here on the show, with the most compelling of the group by far shaping up to be 24-year-old Jonathan Schmitz. Like the others, someone had a long-standing crush on Jonathan, but was too afraid to tell him. And upon hearing of this, Jonathan hoped in the back of his mind that it would be his longtime ex-girlfriend, who he had a newfound interest in marrying, though he was in for quite a shock. The twist in the episode was that Jonathan's secret admirer was actually a man named Scott Amador. The two were actually good friends, though Scott had never once mentioned having any sort of romantic interest in him, due to the fact that Jonathan was straight, and had never given any sort of indication otherwise, setting the scene for what was surely going to be a shocking reveal. A reveal.
Boy, this one of them Jerry Springer type Jenny Jones episodes. Y'all remember Jenny Jones, man? Jenny Jones used to be the ish when I was growing up, y'all. I was probably like 7, 8, 9 years old during this time. But it was Jenny Jones, it was Jerry Springer, it was Ricky Lake, it was I think Sally, Montel Williams, the Montel Williams show. You know what I'm saying, man? Talk shows used to be the ish back in the day, man. Shout out to Jenny Jones, but this is crazy, man. That would be so freaking weird, man, for my freaking friend to bring me on TV and tell me that he in love with me. What the, bro? This some ish that we could have talked about, not in front of a live studio audience.
That the crowd just couldn't wait to see.
B, would you tell the person in private in case he rejects you? Or C, would you tell that person that you're gay and you hope he is on national television?
And then another thing that's so crazy about it is the friend know that the dude not gay. Like, bro, you know I'm not gay, so why are you even coming at me like this? And on top of that, why you do? I'm stuck on the live studio audience, and millions from around the world is seeing this, man. What the hell, dude? I stopped being his friend, man.
Host Jenny Jones starts by talking to Scott and a mutual friend, inquiring as to how this crush began in the first place.
I want you now to meet Donna and Scott. Now, Donna has been helping Scott pursue his secret crush on John. John's backstage. He can't hear us. How bad's the crush? Tell me about the first time you met him. Where was he?
Basically, well, he was under a car, working on her brake line.
Yeah. And that was your first time? What was your first impression?
Well, I only saw the lower half of him, so you can imagine.
Before she begins to dig even deeper, pushing Scott to disclose as much graphic personal information as possible, just to make things that much more entertaining, and his answers did not disappoint.
Okay, you think about you have fantasies about him?
I've had a couple, yeah.
Yeah, you had when he was under the car, you had a fantasy about him.
Yeah, something to do with like brake oil line snapping and...
You have another one that involved, you were in a hammock or something? Tell us about that fantasy.
Yeah, I thought about it. Tying him up to my hammock.
With all of Scott's secrets now out in the open, it was time to bring out the man himself, the object of Scott's affection, who had absolutely no idea what he was walking into.
Let's have John come out here and see who has the crush on him. Here's John.
I feel like this might go bad, man. I feel like we ain't even seen the worst of this one, y'all.
This was the pivotal moment of the show, the big reveal, and perhaps overcome by the excitement of the ratings that she assumed this would bring her, Jenny Jones could hardly wait to blurt out who Jonathan's admirer truly was.
Did you think Donna had the crush on you?
Did I? No, we're good friends.
Well, guess what? It's Scott that has the crush on you.
You lied to me.
Jonathan's reaction was certainly one of shock, but the host wasn't quite satisfied, having one more trick up her sleeve in order to garner an even stronger reaction, as she gives the producers the cue to replay Scott's segment, where he discussed his fantasies in depth.
Before we talk, take a look at, we'll show a little playback of what Scott said about you, John. Take a look at that monitor
right
down
here?
there.
Well, it entails like whipped cream and champagne, stuff like that.
And from here, the segment comes to a close, with Jonathan reaffirming that he is in fact straight, thus dashing Scott's hopes of ever dating the man.
Did you have any idea that he liked you this much?
No, I did not.
Can you tell us what your status is? Are you involved with anybody, or?
No, but I am definitely heterosexual, I guess you could say.
Leaving the two to head off stage and deal with the messy aftermath of a revelation like this, done on a stage like that. But despite the obvious awkwardness, it actually seemed like both parties took it pretty well, with Jonathan even taking Scott out for dinner that very night to smooth things over, where he again stated that he was flattered, but just not interested.
W to John, man. W to John, because he took it way better than I would have took it on that freaking stage, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to make it all the way clear, y'all. All the way freaking clear. I have no problem with homosexual people. If you're gay, you're lesbian, you're whatever. My thing about this whole situation is I feel like this is some stuff, bro, that you could have discussed with me off the camera. You know what I'm saying? You ain't have to bring me up here for this if you know I'm not homosexual like you. You know what I'm saying, man? Like, it's just But like I said, y'all, I don't think we done heard the worst yet.
However, this civility wouldn't last long.
Man, my sister, I think I just got him in.
Okay, calm down, okay? Okay, why did you do that? Okay, I want you to calm down. Okay, the gun's in the car. Okay, I want you to try to calm down. Okay, can you tell me again why you shot the man?
This is freaking crazy, man. I wasn't expecting that being team. I wasn't expecting him to kill the damn man. And then he told the operator, the dispatcher, the reason he killed Scott is because he took me on national TV and tried to make me homosexual, whatever he said. Y'all heard what he said, man. But the fact that he killed him is because of what happened on that Jenny Jones show. Long story short, short story long. Now, I would have never killed my damn friend. Like I said, I probably would stop being his friend after that. But that's as far as I'm going with it. This is crazy, man. Think about the pressure he had to been feeling to even do something like that. And I'm not making no excuses for him. Before y'all even try to get on my case, I'm not making no excuses. He wrong for killing that man. He is wrong for killing that man.
Though he didn't say it at the time, the truth was that Jonathan was left shaken and embarrassed by what had happened on the Jenny Jones show. And despite the fact that the program at this point hadn't even aired yet, it was weighing heavily on his mind, just knowing that it would soon be seen by people he knew. And this feeling was only intensified due to the fact that Scott was seemingly not taking no for an answer, leaving a note on Jonathan's door just 3 days later, writing, "If you want to turn this off, you'll have to use a tool. It takes a special tool." This note was his breaking point. The moment Jonathan read it was the moment he made his mind up. He was going to kill Scott Amador. He left his house right then and there and purchased a shotgun, which he used to break down Scott's door, approaching the man and firing 2 shots at point-blank range, both of which connected, killing Scott instantly. With his mission accomplished, Jonathan sped away from the scene, calling the police shortly after and confessing to everything, stating his sole motivation for doing this being the humiliation he felt from Scott's own confession on that TV show, as well as his continued flirtation despite Jonathan's obvious disinterest. Though clearly this was no excuse to kill, and as a result, Jonathan was arrested and given 22 years in prison, from which he was released back in 2017. Due to the fallout from this episode, it was pulled from the lineup before it even made it to air. But today, the full recording can be found across the internet, giving us a look at the stage on which a killer was made, and a scene that has now become immortalized as one of the darkest moments in television history.
Jesus Christ. Get whatever you may need. I mean, Jesus, man. Nick Crowley starred you off on 100. You know what I'm saying, man? We just get into the video. That story was freaking crazy as hell, man. It's like after you know what happened, then you go back and rewatch the whole reveal about I'm in love with you and all that crazy stuff. Man, Jenny Jones, I don't know. I feel like Jenny Jones should have got sued or something. Well, you can't really, I don't know if you want to blame her. But like Nick said and I had said earlier, y'all, it didn't excuse what he did. He got 22 years, and y'all know how I feel about that. I feel like he should have got freaking life. Long story short, story long, man. You kill somebody, your ass need to be locked up for the rest of your freaking life, at the very least. Let's go, y'all. Like I said, man, Nick started us out on a freaking 100.
The internet is a dark place, and lurking around every corner.
Shout out to Nick, man. Hey, this my guy, dude. Real talk, man. We'll hit commercial now. But yeah, man, he just started you off with the craziness. Let's go to the next one.
7月4号的晚上，一家人正常入睡。到了5号凌晨，意外发生了。
5点半早晨，我醒了。我醒了的时候你不在。
He had nowhere else to turn. It had been 11 long excruciating days since 55-year-old Shu Guli had last seen his wife, Lai Hueli, who had vanished from their apartment in the dead of night. So now, desperate for help tracking her down, he took to the local news stations, putting out a public plea for any information that could help bring her home. Her disappearance occurred on the 4th of July 2020, which also happened to be their daughter's 11th birthday. To celebrate, Shu made the family a special meal, including his daughter's favorite, meatballs, cooking the entire recipe from scratch, even grinding the beef at home. The dinner was supposedly a success, and to finish things off, Lai and her daughter enjoyed a tall glass of milk poured by Shu before the family turned in for the night. Hours later, in the dead of night, Shu woke to use the restroom, and upon getting back into bed, he briefly watched his wife as she was sleeping peacefully next to him, before he fell back asleep. He would never see her again. 24 hours later, Lai Hueli was officially reported missing, and a full-blown investigation into her whereabouts was launched. which is where things begin to get strange. When police searched the apartment complex, they noted a large number of security cameras positioned all over the property, both inside and outside of the building, making it all but certain that Lai would be seen in the footage at some point leaving the apartment, which would at least give investigators a timeline as to when she left. The footage first shows Lai and her daughter taking the elevator up to their apartment at 5:04 p.m., which was presumably right before their meal. From there, over 6,000 hours of footage would be reviewed frame by frame, though strangely, Lai was never pictured again. To investigators, this was impossible. The cameras covered every single possible exit, and it was shown that not a single route would have made her completely undetectable to them, which quite simply meant that she could not have left the building. She had to be somewhere inside, and so they searched everywhere in that complex, from the unit she lived in to the AC vents, the water tanks, storage units, everywhere. Though still, they found nothing.
I just gotta ask real quick, y'all. Do y'all even believe the husband story at this point? You know what I'm saying? I'm kind of like 50-50 on it. I don't know if he lying to us or not. For all we know, you could have did something to lie. You know what I'm saying, man? This is crazy. All those freaking CCTV cameras around there, and there's no evidence of her leaving this building. I'm inclined to at least think that she is somewhere, and I hate to say it, but more than likely, I guess, dead in this building at the least, man. This is, man, Nick Crowley, I tell you.
I was gone, but at the same time, she clearly hadn't left. It was no wonder why Shu felt so helpless in the situation, and fearing that they were reaching a dead end, he began what essentially became his media tour, as he attempted to get as many eyes as possible onto the case in order to help find his wife.
许先生说，7月5号凌晨12点半，他起床上洗手间的时候，妻子还躺在身边。到了清晨5点半，床上就只剩下他一个人。
我也没在意，对吧？
您当时为什么没在意？
为什么没？这个很正常。
之前有没有发生过这种情况？
没有。
我女儿怎么办？我的生活怎么办？啊，我老婆什么时候回来到底？是我都不知道，现在对吧？
我把女儿叫起来了，因为女儿在隔壁嘛。那么叫去问了她一下，我说你妈妈有没有看到？她说没看到。我当时也没怎么在意，反正早晨出去就出去吧，就是。那么继续自己的事情。
These media appearances began to happen numerous times a day across essentially any station that would allow him on. Though even when this failed to garner any leads, he kept the pressure on the public, this time by announcing a reward of 100,000 yen for anyone with information that could help lead to her discovery. Meanwhile, investigators kept digging, searching the area again and again, but still, it just wasn't adding up. There was no way out of that building that hadn't been thoroughly checked over. Well, except for one. In what was likely a last-ditch idea, one of the investigators had a hunch that they should check the community septic tank, as that was really the only place that hadn't been thoroughly picked over yet. And so dozens of trucks moved in to sift through weeks of raw sewage. They searched for 25 hours within the grime, filth, and unbearable stench, until they found something. It was an unusual gooey mass that no one could seem to identify, and wanting to know more, they brought the substance back to the lab for testing, only to discover that they had essentially just solved the case. They had found Lai.
Oh,
or
shit.
at least what remained of her. Despite the story Shu had told investigators and the media, things didn't actually happen the way he said they did on that fateful night. Instead, the couple had actually gotten into an argument after Shu had cut his hand while preparing the meatballs, to which he blamed his wife for the injury, causing the two to have a verbal spat. This was supposedly nothing uncommon for the pair, as the marriage had allegedly turned sour years before due to financial strain, meaning that this was far from their first fight, though it would be their last. When Shu handed his wife and daughter their milk for the night, each tall glass had actually been laced with sleeping medication, with the drug immediately taking effect and knocking both of them out. And with the house now silent, he smothered Lai with a pillow, thus ending her life.
That's what I was saying earlier, y'all. Like, I'm not even so sure that he telling the truth, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was 50-50 on it. And boy, that's why you gotta stay 50-50 in those type of situations till you can get all the way down to the nitty gritty, because his story really wasn't adding up. You know, you woke up, you went to go use the bathroom, and you came back to get back in the bed, and you still seen your wife, but then when you woke up later on in the morning, she was gone. Only problem with that, Zai, whatever your goddamn Shu, his name's Shu, the only problem with that is we got all these cameras around here and don't nobody see her leaving this building. Listen, man, it's just crazy how you can be married to somebody and they got an agenda to kill you. You know what I'm saying? That is just crazy, man.
But if this was the case, then how did she end up in the septic tank? Well, Shu had a plan. He had previously purchased several large butcher knives, which he used to cut his wife into smaller pieces. However, this still wasn't enough for him, as he wanted to make sure that every trace would be discarded in the most effective way possible. And so, he turned to the kitchen, and more specifically, the area he had prepared the meatballs in earlier, before proceeding to place her remains through the meat grinder, turning Lai into an unrecognizable mass of flesh that he would then methodically flush down the toilet over the course of many hours.
7月4号的晚上，一家人正常入睡。到了5号凌晨，意外发生了。
5点半早晨，我醒了。我醒了的时候你不在。
Despite playing the role of a loving husband and even a victim across his television interviews, this man had actually not only killed his wife, but desecrated her remains in a horrendous fashion. And looking back at some of his answers, it's honestly not all that surprising.
一个人他出不去的，按他的智商，老实说，我这么多年了，这都跟他做夫妻了，对他了解，他是出不去的，就是。
As a result of his crimes, Shu Gulai would be sentenced to death, with his execution being set to happen in the near future.
And that's what he need, to be sentenced to goddamn death. F that, man. Y'all know how I am. I'm all for the freaking death penalty. Especially in a case like this. Did y'all hear what Nick said? Not only did he kill her, but the way he treated her body. Put her freaking body through a meat grinder. The same one that you just was feeding your little daughter with on her freaking birthday. That same meat grinder you put your damn wife and her mama through. And then you start flushing her body down the toilet. What the fuck, Nick? Like, seriously, man, where do you get this stuff from, dude? Woo! And it look like we still got 3 more to go. Let's go.
September 27th, 2007, cameras document an unfolding protest in Yangon, Myanmar, as thousands of people take to the streets to express their displeasure with their government. The demonstration was part of an emerging struggle later known as the Saffron Revolution, with tensions having risen in the month prior, when the government made the decision to remove subsidies on the price of gasoline, thus causing gas prices to inflate overnight by over 60%, throwing the economy into instant turmoil. In response, this Saffron Revolution began, which was largely spearheaded by the monks of the region, who all preached a peaceful protest, believing that the government would soon come to its senses when they saw that their citizens were unified against them. However, the government showed no signs of letting up. In fact, on this day, they had actually begun taking offensive measures, going as far as to arrest hundreds of monks in response to their picketing. For the residents, this display was shocking, as they struggled to understand how their own government could jail these religious figures. But they had no idea just how much crueler they could get. As the demonstrators marched in the street that day, a line of officers announced that they had 10 minutes to go home, or else they would face dire punishment. But the crowd refused to back down, being intent on marching on to let the world know just how serious they were. And with neither side willing to budge, the officers began to fire their weapons, first into the air as a warning, and then directly at the protesters.
Whoa, my God. Oh, my Jesus. Man, I'm glad I live where I live at. You know what I'm saying, man? That ain't gonna happen over here. And that's a lot of people who protesting against this. Did y'all see that freaking stampede or freaking group or freaking whatever the word is of people that's out there marching? But for the police, the police over here will shoot freaking bean bags at you. But what they call them? Not sponge bullets, rubber bullets. They'll shoot rubber bullets at you, but they not shooting real ones. Damn.
It was a massacre, with the official death toll being 10 innocent civilians, while others on site that day posited that the number was likely much higher. The footage is disturbing on its own, but there was another layer to this ordeal, one unexpected variable. A man named Kenji Nagai. Nagai was a journalist from Japan with a lengthy track record of reporting on situations in dangerous, even war-torn countries, building up an impressive resume in the journalism community. And during the Saffron Revolution, he was visiting the region with his camera to document the events firsthand, as he had done with so many conflicts before. Yet despite having so-called special protection due to his journalist status, Kenji never made it back home, with Myanmar officials reporting that he had accidentally been struck in the chest by a stray bullet, making him the only foreign casualty in this ordeal. The revelation was obviously heartbreaking for his family and for the entire country of Japan, who strongly condemned the slaying of Kenji as well as the slaying of the other protesters. But still, officials in Myanmar asserted that this was all just an unfortunate accident, a classic case of a man being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But this was only the beginning of the story.
Okay, I just gotta point out that that's not a freaking accident, man. These are literally police officers shooting at civilians. There's no accident in that. What the freak? And Nick said that's just the beginning of this story. Let's go.
Days later, the Japanese media would receive a video recording of the bloodshed that occurred on that notorious day, when the streets of Yangon turned into a one-sided battlefield, and the contents were alarming to say the least. 逃げ惑う群衆を追いかけるように響き渡る数発の銃声。この時カメラは倒れ込む半ズボン姿の男性を捉えていた。The footage shows a crowd of people desperately running for their lives, when in the corner of the frame you can see a man dressed in white, holding a camera as he falls to the ground. It was Kenji Nagai, and he hadn't tripped or even been shot at this point, but instead, he was seen being pushed by a soldier who now pointed his weapon at the man who was now lying helplessly on the ground, and fired a shot directly into his chest, leaving him there to die. Following this, a separate photographer on the scene managed to capture an image of Kenji moments after the attack, and in the photo, Nagai was still holding onto his camera, documenting the carnage around him, as he laid there bleeding to death, having taken a bullet directly into his heart. The revelation was shocking for a few reasons. Most obviously, it disproved the initial claims that Kenji Nagai had been shot by a stray bullet, as this was clearly and quite literally an execution, but it also showed the entire world these harrowing yet inspiring images of a fearless, passionate journalist who continued documenting the battle around him, even as the life left his body, with his corpse being shown minutes later still holding on to that camera. Which leaves us with one burning question. What happened to that camera?
Yeah.
Kenji Nagai had quite literally given his life to capture the images on that device, and with the man being so close to the action, it was likely that whatever was on that camera was incredible, and perhaps even showed his execution up close, which could give more details about how exactly his passing came to be. Yet when his body was returned back to his family in Japan, that camera was nowhere to be found, despite it being in his hands when he passed. Had it been left behind? Was it destroyed in the carnage? Well, it wouldn't take long for these two questions to be answered, as more footage of the event would soon emerge, again on Japanese television. The clip appeared to show one of the soldiers responsible for Kenji's death going in and physically prying the camera from the dead man's hand, and from that point on, it had never been seen again. And with that, one of the most unique lost media searches of all time was underway. And this wasn't an example of lost media that's better off staying lost either, as Kenji's own family was desperate to get this camera back in order to showcase his final images to the world. And so they put out various requests, pleas, and even started a petition begging the government of Myanmar to turn the camera over, assuming that they were the ones who held it in their possession. Though despite the immense public pressure throughout the years, nothing ever came of their pleas. In fact,
damn, man, I hope that they do get this freaking camera back, man, because it's crazy what happened to Kenji. And I mean, I hate to admit it, but I think what happened, y'all, I think that the soldier who took it damn destroyed the camera. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I want to stay positive and hopeful that optimistic that the camera will be recovered. Because, I mean, this, man... I would say that evidence on that camera would be able to make you charge that soldier with murder, but all the police and the soldiers out there murdering more than just him. You know what I'm saying? They just shooting in the crowd all willy-nilly. So it's like, will he even be charged for this ish? This one kind of frustrating. How these people are doing free civilians, unarmed civilians, and these supposed to be the people that protect you? Ugh.
In fact, not only did the Myanmar government refuse to give it up, but they continued to assert that Kenji's death was nothing more than an innocent accident. And for many years it would remain this way. Until out of nowhere, a full decade and a half later,
I will officially hand over the camera.
a press conference was held with the family of Kenji Nagai as the camera was finally returned to their possession. The story of how this camera got back to them is almost entirely a mystery. A group called the Democratic Voice of Burma was involved in some capacity, though they credited an unnamed individual as the catalyst behind its recovery, with many believing that this person had likely stolen the camera from the government and smuggled it out of Myanmar. But aside from the speculation, no further information was provided, which was probably done to ensure the safety of the individual involved. And despite having no confirmation as to where this camera had actually been, the family finally had it in their possession after 15 long years. And they've actually gone on to release bits and pieces of the footage from that day to the media, which finally gives us a look into some of Kenji's final moments. Moments after pointing out the military that had moved in to quell the protest, Kenji was executed by one of those very soldiers.
Crazy.
It's unclear how much more footage was actually on that camera, but for the time being, this is all that's been released to the public, and it's likely to remain that way forever. Today, his family hopes that this footage will help highlight the fact that the problems in Myanmar are actually still very prevalent, with the civil unrest continuing to lead to the deaths of hundreds, even thousands of people per year. As for many of the citizens, the battle rages on. Though in a somewhat poetic fashion, the recovery of Kenji's camera actually brought the situation back into the news cycle, meaning that even after his death, Kenji Nagai continues to make a difference.
Yeah, even after his death, he making a difference, man, just because of that footage that he captured. And I'm so glad they got that damn camera back, even though, like I was trying to say to y'all earlier, it don't mean that just because they got that footage back that whoever killed him gonna get tried with anything. You know what I'm saying? Them soldiers not facing no freaking consequences for just shooting unarmed civilians. I gotta say it again, man. But rest in peace to Kenji, and shout out to Kenji too for giving his life for that cause. And also, even after being shot, he still had the footage rolling. Oh man, this is crazy, but it's good at the same time, y'all. Let's go. We got two more.
Und hier ist der Mann, der aus der Kälte kam. Thomas Gottschalk.
Wetten das?
It was always a big deal when Wetten Das would go on air. After all, it was far and away the most popular show in all of Europe, drawing in millions of viewers to see what crazy segments the show would come up with. The premise of the show was that the contestants were given various unusual challenges that they would attempt to complete in front of a live television audience, with these challenges always being somewhat tailored to the contestants' lives. Though these silly challenges would usually be contrasted by someone attempting something a bit more daring, with these stunts often being reserved for people with some sort of special training beforehand, to assure that they were physically and mentally up to the task in order to avoid injury. The show was very intriguing, with an air of fun and danger all rolled into one, as you never really knew what you were going to get when you tuned in, leading to their program polling roughly 20 million viewers per episode at its peak, which was also helped by the A-list celebrities that often made appearances. And on December 4th, 2010, the lineup was particularly stacked, with Cameron Diaz being featured as well as Justin Bieber, who was set to perform in front of the millions watching at home.
I just gotta point out real quick, y'all, I have never heard of a freaking Wetten Das. I never heard of this TV show at all.
But first, things would start off with a stunt performed by 23-year-old Samuel Koch. Samuel was a stuntman and actor in training, already having 1 stunt credit to his name and a vast amount of training under his belt, making him the perfect candidate to perform something more dangerous and physically demanding. With this in mind, Samuel was given the task of jumping over 5 moving cars, each of which progressively getting longer and harder to clear. And in order to help make things a bit easier, he was given spring-loaded boots, or kangaroo shoes, which would allow him to jump higher. The stunt was right on the border of Samuel's capabilities, as during his practice runs he was just able to clear most of the vehicles, though not without falling multiple times, making it a true challenge, which was what the show was all about. And at Samuel's request, his segment would open the show, with his mother watching from the stands, having a microphone attached to her, ready to capture her reaction.
I'm sorry, man. This is just an accident waiting to freaking happen, y'all. Like, seriously, man. Like, did he ever consider if he trip? Because if you trip, you done. You done. The damn car running over you, man. And any of us and all of us have tripped at randomly freaking times, man. Like, that's something you almost can't even control. You know what I'm saying? This is just an accident waiting to freaking happen. How did this even get cleared for TV?
Jetzt hat das Timing.
The first jump goes off cleanly, making it obvious that Samuel could actually do this. Though when approaching the second car, Samuel bails out, feeling as though something wasn't quite right with his approach. This meant that he would now have to execute the next 3 jumps without fail, or else he would lose the bet. And with the pressure mounting as the third car approached, he nailed it, leaving him just 2 jumps away from winning the prize. Though waiting for him inside that 4th car was a surprise. The drivers of these vehicles weren't just employees of the show, they were actually people Samuel knew, all of which had been good friends of his up until this point. But for the 4th car, with the pressure already on, it would be his own father behind the wheel. They both look at each other from afar as Samuel raises his hand and his father raises his back, as the two begin towards each other. Samuel jumps, but immediately something is wrong. He's just a bit too low, causing the back of his head to make contact with the windshield. From the footage, it looks like just a graze, so insignificant that you might miss it. But in reality, it's believed that in this moment, Samuel hit his head in such a way that he was knocked unconscious, leaving him in the air with no way of sticking his landing. And with that, he falls to the ground, unable to protect himself, landing directly onto his face, with his mother's microphone briefly capturing her initial reaction.
Wehgetan?
Nein. Sofort den Arzt, bitte. Sofort ein Arzt.
The camera cuts to one of the judges, whose face tells us just how bad the scene is. Samuel isn't moving and is totally unresponsive. Even as his mother runs from the stands to comfort him, he doesn't move an inch. Even worse, the program was beloved due to the fact that they aired no commercials. It was a live feed for as long as 3 hours, meaning that they had no commercial break to cut to. And remember, this was the very first segment. Instead, the cameras show the audience, all of whom were standing there stunned in complete silence, as paramedics rush in to help the man. It would be several excruciating minutes before the host, Thomas Gottschalk, announced that the show would be cancelled for the evening, ending the program early for the very first time in its history.
Dankeschön, bis gleich, hoffentlich.
And it's like them showing the crowd, and I most definitely agree that they shouldn't be showing him, you know what I'm saying, the dude who just had that accident. But just them showing the crowd not making it no better, because all them people sitting right there, look at all them people, they stunned, man. This went from being all fun and games to being a real life freaking tragedy. This one of those ones that Ryan from Tragedy Tales can tell, man. You know what I'm saying? This should be one of his stories in the future. Wow.
With the host being so shaken by what he had witnessed that he resigned immediately after the show. The good news was Samuel was alive, though he was in rough shape. 2 of his cervical vertebrae had been fractured and his spinal cord was badly damaged, which left him fully paralyzed from the neck down, turning him instantly into a quadriplegic. And what makes the situation that much more depressing was that, again, his father was the one driving, likely leaving him with unimaginable guilt, despite the fact that it clearly wasn't his fault. But despite this awful tragedy, Samuel's story is actually quite inspiring in the end, as he's gone on to become a successful actor, and even has a credit as an assistant director, taking what was quite possibly the worst hand he could have ever been dealt with, and going out there and achieving his dreams regardless. Though meanwhile, Wetten-Das never really recovered from the incident, and would be cancelled just a few years later due to low ratings, with the most popular episode after the incident being one where Samuel himself actually made an appearance, where he forgave the show and claimed that what happened to him was not their fault. Though it seems the general public was not able to forget that horrific moment they had all witnessed on live TV.
Man, that one's sad and motivational at the same time, y'all. Just for Samuel to get over that, and thank God that he survived it, first and foremost. But just for him to get out of that incident, and now he paralyzed for the rest of his freaking life. Now he got to have people taking care of him for the rest of his freaking life. But he stayed positive and still went on to do other great, amazing things, even though now he is literally handicapped. It's sad, man, that it happened, but it's like, it's motivational because that's something that I need to see. You know what I'm saying? People like that going through the worst of the worst and still fighting through it. That's motivational for us being team. But this is just like, whoa, man, I never heard of a freaking Wetten-Das. And look what happened on that damn show. We got one more to go. Let's go.
There's one magical, haunted evening each year when all the scary creatures come out to prowl through every neighborhood.
It's Halloween night, 1992. People across the UK are just getting home and settling in for the night, with many deciding to turn on their televisions in search of some spooky content to fit the mood, only to find a rather surprising option from an even more surprising source: the BBC. They were airing a new special called Ghost Watch, a daring mission that followed famed BBC presenter Michael Parkinson and a team of reporters as they aimed to capture definitive proof of the existence of ghosts. And to add another layer of tension, they would attempt to do so live on TV. At the time, this was extremely unique, especially for the BBC, which was known to be one of the most trusted news stations in the UK. And making things even more interesting, they weren't going to be doing their investigation at a well-known haunted destination, but rather a simple suburban home. A home inhabited by a family and what they claimed to be an intense, even violent spirit named Mr. Pipes. The name was given because the spirit produced loud banging noises, which the mother initially believed to be the home's old water pipes. The mother's name was Pamela Early, and she lived in the home with her 2 daughters, Suzanne and Kim, and for months they had been desperately trying to get the media's attention to help with these hauntings. However, most reporters who visited the scene labeled them as crazy, and so this was their moment to prove to the world that these paranormal occurrences were in fact real. Though early on, most viewers were left feeling the exact opposite way. Inside the home, reporter Sarah Green would experience essentially no activity for the first hour, with Michael Parkinson and a skeptic they had brought on for an interview casting serious doubt that the phenomena experienced inside the home prior was anything supernatural, instead blaming these supposed occurrences on psychological issues. And things only got worse from here, as upon hearing Mr. Pipe's infamous banging noises, Sarah actually caught Suzanne making the sounds herself by hitting a hammer against the wall, essentially disproving the entire story of the house.
Yeah, after we would have caught her trying to make ghost noises in the house, after we would have caught that little girl doing that, me and the crew of Ghost Watch, we out. We done. We through with y'all BS, man. Are you kidding me? But boy, we know it's about to get crazy. But that's just crazy actually catching her making the ghost noises. It make you believe that her sister, and the mama is crazy. Wow.
Extraordinary. We set out to catch a ghost, and sadly, very sadly, what we witnessed was a remarkable exposure of a hoax.
Let's not be too hasty.
Oh, come on, Doctor, please be.
It was a rough showing. However, by the show's final hour, things began to take an unexpected turn.
Suzanne, are you okay? It's all right, love. Oh, don't get upset, love. Your mum's here. Oh, dear God.
Suddenly, the show cuts to Suzanne, who is lying unresponsive in her bedroom, completely covered in scratches, thrusting the broadcast into utter chaos.
We will stay with you. What was that? Where are we going? Just outside. Where are we going? Come on.
As they rush to help her, loud banging noises emanate from all across the home, despite the fact that everyone was now accounted for. It was horrifying, and made even more so as the camera shows Suzanne hiding behind a couch.
Susie. Stop it! Stop it, Susie!
Where she begins to speak in a low, unrecognizable voice, almost as if she was possessed. Now, in case you haven't caught on yet, Ghostwatch is a work of fiction. The entire show was actually a staged, pre-recorded movie, with everyone you see here being actors, except for Michael Parkinson, who was actually a presenter of the BBC, who was used to make the movie look as authentic as possible, in order to terrify the viewers. In fact,
and I was gonna say that a little earlier too, y'all. I started thinking about it when the little girl was sitting by the couch and she started talking in this demonic voice. I'm like, okay, now this shit starting to look like the WWE. You know what I'm saying? It looked fake, man. It looked staged. But it's like, dude, how staged is it? Like, we know Nick Crowley about to come with something that's gonna actually be crazy. So let's find out.
The show had even started with a brief disclaimer, explaining that this was all going to be a staged performance.
Now, on BBC One, Screen One presents an unusual and sometimes disturbing film marking Halloween. Using the modern idiom of the outside broadcast, Michael Parkinson, Sarah Green, Mike Smith, and Craig Charles star in Ghostwatch.
But the problem was, most people didn't see this. And with the movie aiming to look as authentic as possible, many just took it at face value and truly believed that they were watching an actual real-life possession unfolding before their eyes. And the program wasn't over either. I won't spoil too much of the film, but from this point on, everything is chaotic and extremely tense, leading to the revelation being made that through this program, they had essentially just performed one massive seance, which left each of the 11 million viewers watching at home supposedly susceptible to demonic possession, with the program ending with Michael Parkinson himself becoming possessed.
When you assure me that my wife is safe,
we have got an emergency generator. Whether or not we should bring it in, I don't know.
I'm not going.
Water keeps working. Round and round the garden, like a teddy bear.
After which the camera shuts off and Ghostwatch comes to an end. The program immediately caused widespread panic, with the network receiving over 30,000 phone calls that night, most of which coming from horrified viewers. Even Parkinson's own mother phoned the show in hysterics as she genuinely believed her son had been possessed and potentially even killed. The stories from that night are incredible, with one woman calling the show and demanding compensation for a new pair of trousers, as her husband had quite literally defecated himself out of fear, as well as two boys who presented to their doctors with symptoms of PTSD. It was complete and utter madness. But of all the reactions to Ghostwatch, one individual took it the hardest. Among the 11 million viewers watching was an 18-year-old named Martin Denham, who was tuning in from his family's living room with his parents and younger sister. As the show progressed, Michael began acting strangely, curling up into a ball and becoming unresponsive. All the while, his eyes stayed locked on the screen, watching these horrific events unfold, with his family describing it as if he had been hypnotized. Now, Martin did suffer from a learning disability, which apparently affected his behavior at times, but this was something entirely new. Starting that night, he was overcome with intense paranoia, as he began hearing noises around the house, which his parents recognized as the water pipes. This explanation only increased Martin's fear, however, as this was the exact excuse the mother had used on Ghostwatch to initially explain the paranormal phenomena. And so each time he heard these deep thudding noises, he believed they were coming from Mr. Pipes, with a spirit infiltrating his home thanks to that cursed show that he still believed to be real. Over the next few days, Martin refused to spend any time in the dark, and even asked to switch bedrooms as he believed Mr. Pipes was hiding in his walls. But nothing could alleviate his panic. It was all just too much.
And I can understand why he is so freaking scared, y'all. And I turned the damn closed caption on. Let me turn that off real quick. But I can understand why he is so scared and why he really freaking believe that there is Mr. Pipes in his house and all the other people out there who going through that type of stuff, believing in that damn show like it's real. Because we gotta keep in mind, y'all, this is back in the day, before social media, before the internet, before you can just get on and search or go on Twitter and learn all about the show and just have a better realization of this is fake. Back then, man, we used to watch shows and you'll believe them shows. It's like wrestling back then. Back then, wrestling was a lot more believable than it is now because of social media. I know some of y'all get what I'm saying. Let's finish it up.
5 days after Ghostwatch aired, Martin Denham would end his own life, leaving behind a note that read, "Please don't worry, if there is ghosts, I will now be one, and I will always be with you as one." Ghostwatch was created to provide a viewing experience that was as realistic as possible, and unfortunately in this case it succeeded a little too well, thus causing the show to be banned from broadcast in the UK, where it has never aired since. Though today, you can still find the full movie across various streaming services, where despite the terrible, unfortunate tragedy that it entailed, it's still renowned as an integral part of horror history, while simultaneously being remembered as one of the darkest moments in television history.
Holy elf, my brothers and sisters. I didn't know we was going that far with it. That man ended up killing him. I don't know if you two like for me to say that, but he ended up committing suicide, man, because of freaking that damn TV show. He took it dead freaking seriously, y'all. And I know it was a lot of people out of them 11 million, especially I'm giving y'all context of it. And I know some of y'all old enough to know what I'm saying, man. Back in those days, TV shows, whether they was fake or real, a lot more people was inclined to believe that they was real because there was no social media. Like Nick was talking about, how they had to call into the show and everybody in a panic, is that what we seen real or not? You just couldn't fake. I mean, you just couldn't goddamn take your phone out and Google it or go on Twitter, they Twitter handle or whatever. It's whoa, dude. We knew something crazy was coming, but I did not expect that. That man ended up doing that to himself over that TV show. We're going to run through the, rest in peace to him too. Rest in peace to him. But we're going to run through the rest of these real quick. I ain't going to go all on details. We been here long enough, Bean Team. We have been here long enough. But the one before that wasn't Dawes. Like I said, man, just shout out to the dude. He an inspiration for real for going through what he went through on that TV show. And it's so sad too, just the fact that his dad, the one who really helped cause the accident, his mama standing right there watching it, and now he paralyzed for the rest of his life. But he keeping his mind focused, and he staying as positive and optimistic about life as he could, given his circumstances now. So like I said, shout out to him, man. But it's just still crazy what happened on that damn show. Kenji, shout out to Kenji, man. Rest in peace, and shout out to him, man, just for still recording even after he had got shot. That is some of the most craziest ish that happened in that one, y'all. I really could go down a long road about how crazy the fact that there were police and soldiers just shooting innocent people. Jesus Christ, are we on planet Earth or not? What the hell is going on? That is crazy, man. The one before that, Shoe crazy. Shoe crazy as hell, man. Not only did he freaking murder his wife and tried to act like he did and was talking to all these different news stations and stuff, but the way that he disposed of her body, put her through a meat grinder, flushing her down the toilet, man. Freaking crazy, y'all. Freaking crazy. This was a good freaking one. And like I said earlier, we started off at 100 with the damn Jenny Jones-ish. Jenny Jones, man, the fact that, and I ain't know dude was gonna take it this far. I didn't know he was gonna take it this far. I think his name was John, but I know the dude who ended up dying name was Scott. Rest in peace to Scott. But I ain't know he was gonna end up killing Scott because Scott brought him on national TV to reveal that he had a crush on him. You know what I'm saying? At the most, I would have just been at the most, man, bro, we can't be friends no more. You knew I was heterosexual and you put me on TV to do this. Nah, bro, I ain't effing with you no more. But I would never think to kill him, even if he would have, because the way he said, Nick said 3 days later, Scott left a little note on his door and still trying to talk to him and all that. That's what I would have got a little more stern about it. Like, bro, I'm not playing with you, man. You know what I'm saying? I would have really like let him know, but I would have never got to the point I would have killed him. He showed up at it. It was premeditated how he did it. Showed up at his freaking house with a shotgun, walked in there, boom, boom, boom. You know what I'm saying, man? It's just freaking crazy. And then you go back and look at that Jenny Jones episode now after you know the full story, and it's like just that hug that they gave each other is like, man. I ain't got no more words, my brothers and sisters. I digress. I'm gonna go and let y'all go now. I am still freaking hype, y'all. Like, I could have, hey man, one day Nick need to make a freaking video where he had like 10 of these in one. You know what I'm saying? We got 5 this time. Hey Nick, if you're listening, bro, me and my brothers and sisters will be right here watching for another freaking 40 minutes or however long to watch 10 of them in one video. But we appreciate you for these. And as I'm talking to y'all out there, Bean Team, I appreciate y'all coming on back once again. And before y'all leave, just please hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and do all that if you ain't did that yet. And come on back tomorrow for another That Chapter Wednesday. And until then, my friends, also, remember this. Love, peace, and happiness. Stay safe. Don't stop. Keep going. Yeah.